What's up, everyone? Andre here, along with Tom and John, to discuss our hopes and dreams for Super Mario 3D All-Stars. What is Super Mario 3D All-Stars? That is the rumored title, a rumored title, for the long-rumored now at this point Super Mario 3D Collection that apparently should be coming up pretty soon because, I don't know if you guys know this, but Super Mario Bros. 35th anniversary is this September, as in just a few days from now. So I thought it'd be a good time for us to get together, discuss our hopes for what could be a Super Mario 3D collection, possibly called Super Mario 3D All-Stars, because this is something I am super excited about. And yeah, so as part of this, I think we're going to, we all have a list of our hopes and dreams, and we're going to try and get it to around 10 in total, so we'll see where we end up at when it's all said and done. Before we get into it, I suppose, everyone, just I want to get your general thoughts on this rumor. Obviously, we discussed it before, but do you guys think this is real, and how excited are you for it if it is?
Yeah. I think this is real, yeah. I think Nintendo are lacking a big game for this holiday season, and what is bigger than a culmination of some of the biggest games this industry's ever seen? Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, Galaxy, like, that's exciting. It's very un-Nintendo too. Like, most of the time when they do a re-release, they don't do compilations. Like, they do like Wind Waker HD or Twilight Princess HD or these numerous Wii U ports. So if this is real, that's a pretty monumental leap for Nintendo in terms of just value. So yeah, this is basically the ultimate compilation for me, and I hope that there's some refinements in there too.
Yeah, I think it's pretty exciting, and it's just something that Nintendo does rarely. And considering how they're doing pretty well right now with the Switch, and the lack of maybe a big release, I think those two factors will come in to give them that push to put together such a Mario compilation instead of like putting them out piecemeal.
What I do like, too, is if this rumor is accurate, that it does harken back to how they had kind of celebrated Mario in the past, obviously with the original Super Mario Brothers, or I'm sorry, Super Mario All-Stars, which itself was, paid homage to, or paid respects to the entire 2D line up to that point, minus Super Mario World. And I guess I'll use this opportunity to just hop into my first official prediction here.
Let's go!
I hope that if the Super Mario 3D All-Stars name is true, that this game lives up to its name. Because, as I said, the original Mario All-Stars was pretty monumental. It included pretty much every Mario up until that point, again, minus Mario World. It was representative of the entire Mario saga on the NES. Yeah, I'm calling it a saga. And they redid everything in those games to give them like a completely fresh coat of paint, and they largely did feel fresh while adding in a few extra bonuses too, like being able to save anywhere, or not save anywhere, but being able to save your games, period, and resume from largely anywhere. So my hope is that, as John kind of touched on, one of the aspects of this rumor is that it would include Super Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy. So my hope is that, like All-Stars before it, it lives up to its name and is representative of the full 3D era that we're discussing, being the Collectathon era, which means it has to include Super Mario Galaxy 2. And that would also be 4 games, much like the original Mario All-Stars. And as part of this, I want these games to look good. So what by that I mean, like in the original, how they updated all the graphics to look more like the 16-bit era, I want them to make every game look roughly on visual parity with each other. So that means Super Mario 64 basically needs a complete overhaul. We need redone visuals for basically the entire game. Whereas Mario Sunshine, Galaxy, and hopefully Galaxy 2 can probably get by with just with an HD coat of paint, add widescreen in the cases where it's not already added, maybe touch up a few textures and models here and there. But I replayed Galaxy 2 not too long ago. That game is still beautiful. So I think running at HD would probably be good enough with just a few touch-ups here and there. But they should make one major change for Mario Sunshine graphically, and that is, it needs to be 60 frames per second. I believe it was when they first revealed the game at Space World, I believe, and the final retail product ran at 30. So that will be a monumental improvement if they run it as smoothly as the subsequent games too. And I guess that applies to Mario 64 as well. Make that run at 60 as well if you're already, hopefully, redoing everything.
Yeah. And on the same track as that, there's some pre-rendered cutscenes in both Sunshine and Galaxy, such as Galaxy's scene where they tip the castle into space. That's all done pre-rendered. None of that's in-engine, or at least running in the game itself. So if they are going to be remastering it, they need those source files, and if they don't have those, they've kind of got to remake them. And if they are already remaking everything from scratch anyway, that's not an issue. But otherwise, they've got to do that from scratch again anyway. So hopefully everything is done like from the ground up this time.
And to that point real quick, that actually also applies to Super Mario Sunshine. It also features some pre-rendered cutscenes, and in both cases, but I think especially Sunshine, they show their age. Like, the quality of the models is fine, but the compression they use is extremely obvious these days on like an HD display. So yeah, to your point, they would have to redo those essentially. They don't have access to the original source files, which hopefully they do. But if not, yeah, they need to redo those.
Yeah.
And the Bowser battle in Sunshine too, that kind of chugged at times with the water physics going on there. That would greatly benefit from a remaster.
Yeah. Much as how Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie did on the Xbox. Like, having that smooth frame rate really makes the playability, really notches up the playability.
Yeah, and to Sunshine's credit as well, the water effects are still really impressive. There are still points where the original game does still wow in a few areas. But,
those giant mirrored surfaces they have on that beach level.
Right, yeah, like when you're whacking down those circle guys with the long beak, and you just get these reflections everywhere. Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, imagine that just touched up in HD. That would look beautiful. I don't quite know where my expectations lie with Mario 64, because I don't know if they want to preserve the original look just for authenticity's sake, or they want to go out and remake it from scratch. But in an ideal world, why not both? Why not have like a toggle or something, like Halo Anniversary or Halo 2 Anniversary, like being able to switch on the fly or switch from a menu or something. I mean, this is one of the biggest games of all time. It deserves that kind of treatment.
It's a great point. Yeah, I think that'd be neat. I love the toggle on Halo, and I think Mario could definitely benefit from that as well. Yeah, offer us both a classic, true to the original perspective, but also give us access to like a loving, essentially a remake that the game deserves, again, like the original Mario All-Stars.
Yeah. To build on that point, I would love that classic toggle. That would be like my hope. I think, in reality, I wouldn't be surprised though if Nintendo went with a slightly upgraded Mario 64 just to keep the look of the game there for that classic look, almost having those polygons, but maybe like double the amount of polygons, kind of similar to Ocarina of Time on the in its handheld version. So it's kind of like what you think it is in your memory, but better than the actual thing. And maybe just doing things as simple as the high resolution, no fog, and maybe just replacing some of the ones that are just 2D sprites. I could see something like that for the treatment, just to keep it more authentic.
Yeah, that's a great point, Tom, with Ocarina of Time 3D. I mean, that game was really loyal to the source material, but it still modernized everything. Like, Link's model is day and night in comparison to the N64 version. And something like that would be appreciated. But I would also like something that looks super modern as well, and I don't quite know which visual style I'll prefer.
There are 2 points I just thought of. One, do they keep the 2D trees if they update the visuals?
Yeah.
Those are iconic trees.
They are iconic trees. Like, would it be better if they just update that 2D model and keep it as is, or do we get fully polygonal trees now? Like, that's a difficult question.
Changes everything apart from the trees, or like the Yoshi model on top of the castle. Everything else is remastered.
Yeah, or the Bowser, I could see them like swapping out, but the trees, like, they would almost look better as a HD sprite than if they put in a 3D model, depending on what they do for their lighting, I guess.
Yeah, and kind of to that point, Tom, there's something else that came out not too long ago, and someone is using the port of Mario 64 that has been created recently on PC. Someone has made a mod for it where now they are mimicking the marketing renders used for the game in game. So they're taking like that fully nice rounded version of Mario, putting it in the game, redoing all the character models in the game to match that same look, and it looks phenomenal. Like, you can take any snapshot from the game now, and it looks like it could have been used as marketing materials for it. So basically running at a fidelity that was obviously far, well beyond what the 64 itself was capable of. And I wonder if something like that couldn't be really neat here, but at the same time, it's also very much at odds with how Mario 64 itself also looked. So it's this weird dichotomy of visual styles, and I wonder what they may actually end up going with if they even make that leap at all. As we're saying, they could just up-res the current game and call it a day, and I really hope they don't do that. So I'm curious to see what angle they might take here.
They're in a very hard position because they're competing now with a modded PC version. People can do anything. And we've seen it running in 4K 60 FPS, and obviously they can't compete with that. But from a visual level, there are things they can compete with. But it's just unfortunate for them that version's going to keep growing, and that this is just going to be a static release. So it's bad timing for them. But hopefully it's like a little kick of motivation for what they can live up to.
Yeah, either motivation or just they won't bother competing and keep with the authentic one, depending on how ambitious the other games in the All-Stars collection is.
Sure.
Exactly.
Let's go.
I want a better camera for all of them. I think, well, Mario Galaxy for one had a fixed camera. You use the Wii Remote D-pad to just sort of switch between different planes every now and then. I want to move it around 360 degrees. I want to do that in Mario 64 as well. And Sunshine, while it had a free camera, it also wasn't a great camera. So I think all three games could do with... They could do a lot with a refined camera.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think Sunshine probably had the most flawed camera, particularly given the sequence behind the waterfall, I believe, or in the theme park behind a waterfall. Yeah, that was kind of a mess. But to be fair, Mario 64's camera doesn't age particularly graceful either. I think Galaxy is probably the best because it's the most hands-off. You don't usually have to manipulate it. But even that, to your point, could be improved. So I'm 100% on board, and maybe I will add on to this point just to flesh out. Maybe it should be its own point. What would be cool is a photo mode, where we can now, since we can now share screenshots easily on the Switch, give us a photo mode. Let's show off these beautiful, will hopefully be beautiful games in HD from like any perspective. Particularly with the fact that you have an actual cameraman in Mario 64. Let us make use of that. Let us like zoom in close, get a cool snapshot of Mario while he's doing whatever, sleeping or something.
Right. Odyssey did this. It's not out of the question. They've done this in 3D Mario before.
Yeah, and diving back to the camera, so I would love, especially if Mario 64 had the classic camera available, but also the smart camera to maybe... So if you want, you can see what the original experience was, or you have a better one that maybe younger people are more used to. And also in Mario 64, since technically, I don't think frame rate and stuff would be an issue. You can go back further. I'd love that, like an extra zoom out mode to see more level.
Sure. Yeah, larger point of view would be great, yeah.
For which game?
For Mario 64 in particular. Like, because you could move in and out with the C-stick, so maybe one more moving out.
So kind of to that point, actually, the original game did have a Lakitu camera mode where you could freeze Lakitu in place and or freeze the camera in place and have Mario run through the entire environment, which isn't exactly what you're saying, but there is kind of like already a framework that they could work within to make that happen. So that'd be neat.
Let's go.
My hope is for Luigi in Mario 64, and because that was always the big rumor. I'm going to consider him like Star Fox 2, something we always heard about but never got. And I think he's not going to be in co-op, even though that'd be cool. I think that's a bit too much, but he's going to have a longer, floatier jump, of course. He's going to be like halfway to Funky Kong, and to help with maybe people that might find Mario 64 hard, he's going to have like a balloon that he can use when he's like just about to fall off a mountain or something like that.
That's
like a get out of death free card.
I think that's a cool idea. I mean, I would love if they went to the extent of offering a reason to replay these games. Finally making L is real a reality would be huge. I mean, they kind of did in a way in Super Mario 64 DS, but we don't discuss that game here. No, that'd be fun. I'm down for that. And what would be really neat is that they took it to an even greater extent, where maybe it's part of like a harder mode or an alternate mode at least. Maybe switch up, like remix the game a little bit. Give us a whole new reason to replay the whole thing. You add a few different stars in there, change some of the enemies around. I don't know, just tweak things up a little bit while we're playing this second character now too. Maybe they can even make like a pseudo sequel, where maybe maybe Mario's been kidnapped now or something, and now Luigi has to go rescue him after the events of Mario 64. Just I don't know, something. I think I'm not expecting that at all. But at the very baseline, having just Luigi playable would be super neat.
I mean, it's hard to talk about that without addressing Mario 64 DS, which did have Luigi playable. Are we
Yeah.
expecting that in any capacity? I mean, the thing of this collection is I want toggles. I want the pure classic experience, but I also want a remastered experience. And if I can also have a toggle to go between Mario 64 and Mario 64 DS, even if I don't like DS that much, I'll still take that toggle.
I totally agree. In the sense that I'm not a huge fan of the game, but it would be really cool if it were here. I don't think a toggle would work because the core gameplay is pretty different to the original game. But it would be pretty neat if they actually did represent the game here. I'm not expecting it because itself is already a remaster in a way, this weird spin-off remaster thing. So it might not fall in line with the rest of the series, but I think it'd be neat to have it as the first 3D Mario remastered, like it represented here, and it would hopefully be improved in the same ways. So it'd be more playable. We can finally play with an actual control stick rather than the D-pad or the touchscreen.
God, the touch.
That would make it having an analog stick for Mario 64 DS. I think it would be pretty tolerable in
Be a game
that
changer.
respect. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm down for it. That'd be neat.
Let's go.
So my hope number 4, our fourth hope, is that they tweak some of the gameplay, and Mario Sunshine needs it the most. So I've got a few specifics here that they could use to really, I think, iron out the experience a little bit. One, the blue coins need to be addressed on some level. And I think I have some ideas for how to make it better to collect them and manage the collection of them, so if you're aiming for 100% to make that experience far more enjoyable. Number 1, add like a blue coin locator that beeps or something. Something along the lines of the Breath of the Wild Shrine Finder or something. Something that lets you know you're near a blue coin, because some of those were so opaque in the original that you didn't even know when you were near one. So yeah, give us something that indicates when you're close. 2, add a counter for each star, showing how many or each shine, showing how many blue coins were within each level. Because as is, I think there were 30 per level or some amount, I forget, but they're split up between each chapter or each shine. You had no idea where to find each one if I remember correctly. So provide a way, maybe I'm off base on that, but provide a way to easily see how many blue coins are left per chapter per shine. Third, I would ditch this is a control issue for me. Apparently it might only be me. I was never a fan of how the game handled the switching between nozzles on the on Flood, or Flood in general, of course, but I hated that you had to press X in order to switch between the blasting water mode, shooting water mode, and the hover mode, which is essential. There were so many times where I would need to hover, and I would hit the trigger to hover in air, and I would just end up shooting water instead of fall to my death. So I would recommend that they make it contextual, where if you're in the air, you only hover, and if you're on the ground, then you only shoot. I can't, again, it's been a long time since I've revisited Mario Sunshine, so maybe there's situations in which that just wouldn't work, but I think that by and large would kind of address the issue. And I think that would still even work with the other alternative modes you have as well, like the other nozzles you find. Again, it's been a long time, but that's a hope I think they could really improve for the game. And finally, to expand it to the Galaxy games, they need to find a proper gyro or they need to have a proper gyro-controlled replacement for the cursor, particularly if Mario Galaxy 2 is here. Yoshi's controls are sublime in Mario Galaxy 2 on the Wii, where you just point at the screen where you want his tongue to go, and it's just completely effortless. So I think the only way to mimic that is to bring in proper gyro controls, and I hope that they do, because we've already had an HD port of this game in China for the NVIDIA Shield, and they use the right control stick instead for Mario Galaxy, and I can't imagine that working anywhere near as well as a gyro-based pointer. So yeah, I think there's some parts of these controls that get ironed out, probably across all 3 games, to make them better playing experiences.
Yeah, it's less detrimental in Sunshine, but it would be cool to aim Flood using gyro as well. That'd be a really cool control improvement. One gameplay improvement for Sunshine I thought about actually was so the way 64 works is basically you can get any star in any order you want, and it doesn't matter how you get them. You can still progress and get Bowser. That's fine. Sunshine doesn't quite work like that. You've still got to get to a certain point in certain chapters to progress the story. And maybe that's integral to how the game works, but I want that changed. I think that really undermines the actually being able to choose where you go in the game. And there are certain levels I didn't like, and I would have skipped them if I had the option to, but you don't a lot of the time.
Yeah, changing up the order, letting us play the way we want to, that would be a lot more flexible and maybe make it a better experience overall. Like, and I don't even know if Mario 64 could do this, but imagine that one if you could just keep going in the level collecting stars without being kicked out of the level. Definitely good for speedrunners. I don't know what that would mean for the experience, but I'm all for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Some stars do change how the level is laid out, like the eel
Like a
will appear in
boss.
certain stars, but I
Yeah.
don't see a reason why you couldn't pause the game and just select another star, and then certain things spawn in or spawn out. Like, I think you can still have that sort of seamless star collecting.
That's a really good point. Yeah, no, I think it definitely would. I think it might work better for Mario 64 than Sunshine, just because I think Sunshine's structure might be too rigid, as is that's a major reworking. But yeah, and they already have like a light framework in place for that in Mario 64 with the 100 coin star. When you collect that, it doesn't boot you out of the level. You can stay in the level and continue playing for one of the actual primary stars. So I would love if they made that change, because as you said, there's only a few stars in the game that are dependent on selecting that star, such as something pretty early is after you beat, the Bomb King, that's when Koopa the Quick shows up. But outside of that, the rest of the stars I think are accessible in that level in particular at most any time. So yeah, that'd be a really good change. Broaden it out a little bit more or not broaden it out rather, but yeah, making it so you're not booted out each time. Because one of the fun parts about that game was that it was largely non-linear in how you go about collecting things. And the fact that it kept booting you out of the level was just a little annoying as part of it, so...
Let's go.
So we've gone on about the presentation a bit, but we've not really talked about the music, and I think that's a huge part of how I remember these games. Like, I'm just thinking of things like Jolly Roger Bay and all these sort of tracks like coming back to my mind. And they're iconic in how they sound at the moment, but we got a little tease in Galaxy 2 of the Thwomp's Fortress, and
Yep.
God, I want more of that. I want to hear more of these tracks remastered. Please do it.
100%. Yeah, Mario 64's. I love the music in Mario 64, but it's completely MIDI based. And I think Mario Sunshine was as well, though it had a much better catalog from which it was pulling from, so it was less obvious. So yeah, remastering these tracks could be something truly special. Like, really make this a more it'll feel like a more bombastic experience. They don't necessarily need to lean into that for the tracks, but yeah, like full orchestrations would be amazing. Can you imagine Jolly Roger Bay like on a full orchestra?
That's magical, yeah.
It's a beautiful song as is, but just giving us, it doesn't have to be orchestrated. I just want to remaster it, but an orchestration, it would just be pure magic, as we're saying.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
And like everything else, a toggle. Like I'd like the original tracks to be there still, but God, if I was to play this game again, it would absolutely be in the remastered track. I want everything new for my first playthrough. And that kind of gives you the incentive to keep revisiting it again and again, like to see the classic version, see the remastered version.
Right.
And in either case, they are going to be upgraded in some way because they'll be in HD.
Yep. And Mario Galaxy 2 actually offered a taste of another Mario 64 track that was remastered, being the lead up to Bowser in the Bowser stage, and it also is fantastic. So yeah, if they could bring up all the games to that level of quality, Mario Galaxy I think doesn't really need to be touched, because those games are already largely orchestrated. But yeah, revisiting the first two 3D games in that way, that'd be so good. And and people often forget how much sound matters to the experience, and that almost might go farther than the visuals in enhancing it.
So I just want to bring up a point. That would be awesome and all, but I hope they might have worked on that earlier, because I don't know how easy it is to get people close together in an orchestra right now. Maybe it's different in Japan, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Or like individual recordings and put them together.
Yeah, just set up
we'll
a Zoom session for each instrument.
It does go beyond music too. Like, imagine being in the courtyard of Peach's castle and hearing actual bird sounds rather than like digital versions.
Oh, yeah, that'd be... It's just looking back, the experience of that, it'd just be even more immersive today, so...
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's go.
My main hope here is some new levels. Now, there's two games I can think of the most. The Galaxy ones had a lot, so in Mario 64, I would love if there's, let's say, 1 to 3 new levels, full-size levels, not like smaller ones, and maybe from ones that they just didn't have time for, or perhaps were working on for the 64DD expansion that just kind of never happened. Maybe something from there can be put together into the game. I would love it if one of them was a mountain level. And also, I would love, they're probably not going to do this at all, but if they could fix the disappointment that was Corona Mountain in Mario Sunshine, to have something to look forward to the entire game. Like, this is it, it's going to be the lava level, and it's like a small tunnel. It was like, at the time, it was just a big disappointment for me. I'd love if that was more of a full-size level. Maybe Mario can, even though it wouldn't happen in reality, use water to cool lava and walk in it and go to different places.
Is it not perfect that in a level in which touching anything ends in your death is called Corona Mountain?
Good point, good point. They were ahead of the game.
But no, I agree. Like, fleshing that out would be cool. And I guess kind of to that point, there's probably areas of Mario 64 in which they could broaden it a little bit. Like, basically, most of the levels are just kind of floating there in this weird space. And some levels will do a little more convincing than others. Some don't even try. Like Womp's Fortress is just floating in the air completely, whereas others, like Peach's Castle, like seem to exist somewhere in a world, but there's still a very clear divide from what's playable and what's in the distance. And I think it'd be neat if you kind of like smooth that out a little bit. Banjo-Kazooie did a great job of this, of making the worlds feel like part of a larger whole, and Mario 64 could probably do that as well. I think one of the levels that did it best is probably the desert stage, where it kind of just felt like, yeah, you're in the middle of a desert, and I love that. So they could capture that essence for the rest of it. Whether or not it includes an expansion of the playable area, I think would be neat. So yeah, to your point, Tom, I think adding new stuff, adding new levels especially would be, I mean, I'm not expecting it, but that's a great hope. And especially because Mario 64 originally had plans for 40 levels in the game. We only ended up getting 15. So they probably have a few, like, somewhat, more finalized ideas that they could implement. And that'd be neat. Could you imagine walking into a room and just seeing, like, a picture frame you've never seen before? It's like, what's that?
Yeah, that'd be so exciting.
Yeah.
I can only imagine at the time, like, we can do 40 levels, but we'll be out for the anniversary collection.
To get ambitious on this point a moment, there was a Kirby collection. I think was it just the Kirby 25th anniversary collection, I think? And in that, they had some levels based on the most recent game at the time, being Kirby's Return to Dreamland. And I'm just picturing, like, what if they went with this idea and gave us something within the Odyssey engine, but it's sort of inspired, like, it's a 3-chunk level that's sort of inspired by everything in the collection. So you go like a Mario 64 segment, then you have Flood, and you go through like a Sunshine segment, and then you're in space and you have all these galaxy mechanics. Like, what if it's just this one big celebration, like Champions Road level, that just like celebrates everything?
I love that idea. You can get the different kind of like the hat power-ups from Mario 64, combine that with the nozzles from Mario Sunshine as you're flying through space and galaxy. That'd be incredible.
Almost like a special world that unlocks when you beat all the games, maybe.
Yeah, we're shooting high with that one, but it'd be so cool if they did it.
That would be.
Let's go.
I want a fun presentation. So Mario All-Stars at the time felt fun. Looking back, it's a little bit basic, but I love the title screen where you have all the characters talking to each other as if they're actors in a play, which is something that we know they were aiming for with Mario 3. You see like enemies talking to the Mario characters, like everyone seems to be getting along, and the lights come on, they stop all of a sudden like they've been discovered. So I want them to go all out with a presentation on this game, and I'm afraid that they won't, but I want it to feel fun. So as part of that, maybe they could pull something off like what Sonic Jam did. I think it was Sonic Jam, where you have a full like 3D hub that you run around in, maybe like Peach's Castle even. You can go to different rooms that represent each of the games, and you'd see like fully rendered versions of the consoles with the games next to them. Like Mario All-Stars had, at the time, great looking scans of the box art. Now they look mediocre, but at the time it looked fantastic, and I would love to be able like to interact and see the consoles and the box art and just in full 3D. Maybe actually you see an animation of the games going into the consoles, like slipping the disc into the Wii, for instance, for the Galaxy games, as it just gets sucked into as Mario gets sucked into the console to re-experience them. So yeah, I want something fun. I want the presentation to feel monumental and not just like a lame menu.
What if Mario time travels back to his past? Like, that's part of the menu. Like Mario's time machine comes back, and you somehow take that and go back to 1996 or whatever.
The ultimate throwback. I'm in.
Yeah, Throwback Galaxy. I have another idea. Let's take the moldable face from Mario 64 in the beginning, but also add in the ability to shoot water at it from Flood. And Add the ability so you're a little Mario on it, running around his head like a galaxy and going around to different places, like with the cast in the head. Like maybe it zooms out and it's Mario's head or something. Like merge all three into one.
I love that. I'm down. Totally down for this.
Yeah.
Yep, really is.
Let's go.
I want to be able to mix and match some elements. Like, I want to be able to take Mario 64's model and play as it in Sunshine. And like just extrapolate certain elements of each game and make them play together somehow. Models is the only idea I have on top of my head, but I'm sure there's other things they could do too.
Or thinking a little bit like how in Odyssey you could put on the retro Mario 64 costume and have that blocky appearance.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so you're sort of saying different costumes for different games, or?
It could be costumes, or they could go further than that. Maybe they can have like certain enemies that you can swap back and forth between, or just something just to play around with and celebrate the legacy of the 3D Mario series.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I
Good
was gonna say, I was thinking that it would be really cool if you could just put any Mario in different ones, like a power up. But the ability to swap would be easier than just actually having the abilities in and trying to force gameplay, let's say, from Sunshine to any of the other ones. I can see that being the trickiest one.
Like a
So I have an
3D
idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, that might be. I mean, I think it's a cool idea. Probably pretty difficult to implement. So I have one idea to kind of build off of that. What if they made Yoshi rideable in
Oh.
Super Mario 64? This was Yoshi's first appearance in a 3D Mario game, coming at the end, serving as the reward for the game. But he didn't do a whole lot in the original. He just gave you extra lives, gave you a new triple jump, and gave you a message with a few typos in it. So it would be so cool if they paid homage to the way Yoshi has worked across all the games, including in the other Mario games, presumably in this collection, or hopefully including Sunshine and Galaxy 2, in which Yoshi is rideable. So make that the end game reward. Let's get Yoshi, let us ride him in the levels, and that we can do all kinds of crazy things with him, like eating enemies, or reaching areas you couldn't reach before by jumping off of him. You get the flutter jump. How fun would that be as a reward? Maybe they can add a few bonus stars in there to kind of like liven it up.
That'd be amazing. You say new triple jump. I'm not sure what it did apart from being a bit sparkly. It definitely wasn't.
It made you invincible, technically.
Okay. It definitely wasn't a great reward for finishing the game.
It wasn't.
It's always whether Yoshi gives it to you too. Like Mario's partner from World is just like, well, here's a sparkly jump. Bye. Like it makes way more sense to have him like unlockable in the game.
Yeah. I love how when even just talking to Yoshi, he's like, "All right, bye."
Yeah.
Like, he just leaves.
Jumps
That's your reward. I'm out.
Gotta go to the next game.
Yep.
Yeah, having Yoshi as a reward would be great, or even if it unlocked some more stars that you can only get with Yoshi, that'd be a neat feature. Like instead of green stars, like a Yoshi star almost.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be super fun. What way to liven up that game, offer more of a reward than an actual like more of a post game. Giving a bonus that was only kind of teased in the original. So yeah, I think that could be a lot of fun.
Let's go.
This might be a grander than just Mario itself, but on Nintendo Switch Online, we have NES, we have Super Nintendo. Presumably, we'll get N64 at some point. And with that, much like Super Nintendo and NES, an N64 controller. And what I want from that is not only for... If that thing ever exists, I want it to be compatible with this game, with Mario 64. But I also want it to recognize the GameCube controller as an actual input, rather than just being a Pro controller. I want to have analog triggers in Sunshine to be recognized while playing with the GameCube controller. And hopefully, maybe they can even have a Wii remote someday, so we can play Galaxy the classic way too. But we're well on the way to having 64 and Sunshine within the Switch with their own original inputs.
It's a great point. Yeah, I love the GameCube controller, so being able to play Mario Sunshine the way it was intended with the best controller ever made would definitely be ideal. So I 100% support that. Yep.
Yeah, that'd be great having that support in. Now, would it be so ambitious as to add in Wii support somehow? Like
That's tougher.
Wiimote? That'd be a bit far, but yeah, GameCube controller, I'm all for that.
Yeah, the trickiest thing about the Wii remote too is how do you power that sensor bar? Because there's nowhere on the Switch to connect it to, so you'd have to have a Wii or Wii U around just to provide power to the thing. I guess they could release a version that's powered by USB or powered via like a wall outlet or something. But that is an extreme. I don't know if Nintendo would go to. But hey, I'm on board because I want, like I said before, the pointer controls in both Galaxy games are great, particularly in Galaxy 2. So Galaxy 2 is in fact here. I want that Wii Remote control as well.
Let's go.
I want a proper documentary in this game. Give us some behind-the-scenes details on the development of these games. This is something Nintendo doesn't tend to talk about too much, at least outside of like interviews or Iwata Asks, which unfortunately are obviously no longer around. I would love if they made a proper documentary to go along with this. Walk us through the development of at least Super Mario 64, if not the subsequent sequels as well. Let's see, let's see some of the behind-the-scenes details. Talk to the development staff. This is all stuff that we don't get too many glimpses of. I think the best example recently would probably be the Mario Odyssey book they released, the Mario Odyssey art book that goes over the concept art for the game, discusses early ideas they had for it that maybe weren't implemented, gave us a look into how the evolution of the game came to be. I would love they did a video version of that for the early games, and like, including retrospectives. Like, talk to Miyamoto about what it's like to, be, 25 years out now from Mario 64? About 25 years. I would love to get that perspective and see like what these games mean to them at this point.
Right. I mean, 64 in particular, this game molded what a 3D sandbox could be. And it was on its first try. Like, there were so few 3D games of this ambition at the time. How did that come about? Like, I would love just some intellect on how that actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so quickly, too, if you look back, like, their actual development window. Now, Andre, would you want more like a short documentary, or would you rather have something like developer commentary tracks, like what Valve does?
Ooh, that could be neat, too. That would also give a good reason to revisit all these games, all the stages, if there was like a commentary track for each of them. That'd be unique too. I think for me, I'd probably prefer the video version just because it's easier to access. I don't have to hop into each level to hear everything. But either way, I'd be fine with that. And hey, if they have both, even better. I think it was last year I reviewed the Aladdin and the Lion King compilation where they, the Super Nintendo games that were re-released on Switch, and they had some fantastic retrospectives and documentaries in there, and something to that effect would be just really neat to get that perspective on.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually, even beyond, they could explore some of the earlier prototypes of the games. Like, what if they included like playable early segments? Like, I think there were some early demos of the game that featured elements that were not in the final game, or earlier models that weren't implemented. Let's play like those early game show demos, which almost no one experienced at the time. And certainly there isn't much footage of even these days. So they still have those around. Let's play those. Like, how fun would that be?
Yeah, like even Mario 128, which is barely a game, but still, I'd love to have that interactive on the Switch.
Yeah.
Just a piece of history. Yeah, put it in.
The early Fall Guys. The original Fall Guys. Where you had a giant... Yep.
I was going to say that remember the first Video of Sunshine that had that creepy long leg thing, the first level?
Right? Like, what's the story behind that? It had like a human girl in there. It almost had like a Sonic Adventure vibe a little bit. I want to know what's going on with that. Like, if that's not playable, at least give us some background, more background information on it. And that was I think that was like just around a year, if not less, before the game debuted. Like, how much changed from that to the final game, and why? Like, I would love to hear all the details about that.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the most exciting things. It takes this from just being a compilation of games to being a museum of Nintendo's legacy, and that's exactly what I want from this. It's more than just replaying games we played before hundreds of times. It's just seeing them in a new light and learning more about them. That's what I want from this.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's it.
And I bet a lot of people don't know about the people behind the games too. I mean, I'm sure you want to protect some people, but everyone knows the main people at Nintendo, like who they are. You're not gonna be poaching those employees. Have some of their feedback in the game, because a lot of them are still around.
Yeah. They're going to make Charles Martinet re-record one of his lines, though. I think in Mario 64 DS, they changed the throwing Bowser line to bye-bye, and that's literally it. Will they keep that in, or are they going to stick with the original line?
Oh, I know they... What was it? Like, so long, King Bowser?
So long, King Bowser was what it's allegedly meant to be, yeah.
Yeah. Despite being... I always thought it was like Salami Bowser or something. So let's just change it to Pepperoni Bowser, so there's no confusion.
There you go. Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, I suppose that if they are remastering it to the extent that we hope they are, I think they'll probably just re-record all the lines. Especially because I think, Charles Martinet's voice and inflection has changed a bit over the years, so it makes sense to bring it in line with the more modern games, while also possibly keeping the original version for us to all play if it is there.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are our 10 hopes for the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection. Did I get that rumored name right?
I think so.
I always get the exact order is a little confusing. Do we have any final thoughts about this, guys? If this all ends up happening, which it probably won't, how excited would you be? Like, where are you at right now with this game?
This is like a dream. If all of this happens, this is like a 10 level of excitement for me.
Yeah.
These are some of my favorite games of all time. To give them the best treatment possible is more than I could wish for. Even just a simple compilation would be fine, but I want more than fine. These games deserve more than fine.
That's it.
Yeah, to have it available on Switch, to play Mario 64 again, to revisit the other ones, I'm at a 10 too.
Yeah.
It will lower if it becomes like the 64DS version of Mario 64, but right now a 10.
Exclusively the DS version.
No.
N64 nowhere in sight.
Lower.
Yeah, the tricky thing is if this product does exist, we don't fully know what we're looking at here. And my hopes is that it's just not a collection of ports. I hope at the very least they do like what Wind Waker HD did or Twilight Princess HD, which did add some fairly sizable touch-ups, even more so if you go to the 3DS versions of the 64 games. And I hope that they look at Mario 64 at the very least in that light. So yeah, I'm hoping for at least a coat of fresh paint across the board, and anything else they add on top of that would be great, such as gameplay tweaks for Sunshine, bonus features. So yeah, my hype is pretty freaking high right now. If they do all of this, absolutely, it would probably blow past the 10. I'm not expecting them to do all of this, but they even hit a few of the ones we touched upon, I'll be a happy camper. So, yeah, I'm excited to see if this becomes a reality. Again, the 35th anniversary is in September, in just a few days from now, if not even sooner, depending when this video goes up, if not this very month I'm talking about right now. So we hopefully won't have long to wait to find out if there's validity to this rumor or not. And again, here's hoping it includes Galaxy 2, because you gotta have it there. Alright everyone, those are our hopes for the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection. But let us know what you hope in the comments below. We'd love to hear your personal expectations, what you thought of our own. And if you like this video, make sure to click that subscribe button and ring that bell for even more on what may be Mario's 3D All-Stars collection, as well as everything else Mario as well, plus Nintendo and among other things. So we'll catch you later. Bye everyone.